Hello and welcome. Another year has passed and it's time for another top 10 list. Once again, it hasn't been a particularly great year for movies. Another set of lockdowns early in the year, then many films were once again postponed due to the COVID pandemic. Others released only on streaming services, but movies were still coming out. In fact, this year I've seen 143 newly released movies compared to 110 last year. Proportions were similar, 64% of those I've seen at home, 36% in theaters. And amongst all of these movies, there was actually a lot to enjoy. Now, the list, as usual, is not meant to be some sort of objective top 10 best movies by whatever metric. It's a list of my favorite ones, which means that some movies that make it on this list, I or other people wouldn't consider true masterpieces or great for everyone, and that's fair because they just worked for me for various reasons, which I will try to briefly explain. And also, as usual, it's called a top 10, but it contains more movies because I can never quite find myself to be so cruel as to cut the list off at the arbitrary 10 if I think that more films deserve at least a mention. This time around it's 12 different films, so without further ado, let's get to it.
You are a product of all who came before you. The legacy of your family. You are your mother. And whether you like it or not, you are also your father.
I told my men they wouldn't be able to kill you if they tried. Glad I was right.
At number 12, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I know, it's a Marvel film, and yet I include it on this top list. But I have to say, the film has instantly become one of my favorite Marvel movies of them all, because while it still very much is an entertaining, big-budget comic book blockbuster, it is incredibly competent at all of the things that it does. It has grandeur, but it grounds itself by putting family issues at the heart of the story. It has absolutely fantastic action with incredible fight choreography, perhaps the best in all of Marvel. Very talented performers who actually get to showcase their skills. And perhaps most importantly, all of that action serves a narrative purpose. Just think about the dance-like scene fight sequence between Wenwu and Lee at the beginning of the film. It has great humor, which never undercuts the serious or emotional moments, and it has one of the best villains put to screen from the Marvel comic books, thanks in no small part to the magnetic presence of Tony Leung. I didn't expect I would love it as much as I did, but here we are.
There is only one question that matters. Do you swear on your life that what you say is true?
My father told me my life would be blessed with good fortune. I'm married. I was a good wife. And then was judged and shamed by my country.
I say before all of you, I spoke the truth.
At 11, The Last Duel. Out of the two Ridley Scott movies released this year, this one and House of Gucci, this one was talked about far less, and I think undeservedly so. It tells a remarkable true story that happened in medieval France and which is surprisingly timely in a lot of its aspects to this day. And more importantly, it shines in execution by using the narrative structure perfected by Akira Kurosawa in Rashomon, showing us the same exact story through three different perspectives in succession, each time changing details and elements of it to show how each person tells and perhaps remembers the same events completely differently. And then as a cherry on top, it has an amazing visceral duel sequence between two knights as its climax. Really well done film all around.
What is storytelling? Storytelling started with our indigenous people. Can anyone give me an example of a myth or a story they're afraid of?
At number 10, Antlers, my favorite horror film of this year, fits very well with what I like about horror in general. It's a movie that isn't terrifying in the traditional jump-scare reliant way, but rather scares you with its unsettling atmosphere. And at the same time uses the literal horror layer to tell a deeper story about something else entirely. It's well thought out, has a creepy, hopeless vibe, and pretty great body horror and creature design of the mystical Wendigo as well.
You are one of those lucky people that can travel anywhere.
Yes, ma'am, I know.
And they sometimes call you nomads.
My mom says that you're homeless. Is that true?
No, I'm not homeless. I'm just houseless. Not the same thing, right?
No.
At number 9, Nomadland. I remember seeing the film and thinking that it presents a world, a community, a way of life that I have never been a part of and likely never will. Something I have no reference for, and yet it managed to pull me in and make me somewhat nostalgic, somewhat melancholic in relation to it. I think it looks fantastic, and it works mainly by creating a palpable atmosphere of longing for this nomadic solitude, the idea of people without real homes just going on the road to live this way, which was in some ways sad, but in some ways also quite inspiring and touching.
It began as a holiday. Eager to escape a bright future on the Great Plains, Arthur Howitzer Jr. transformed the series of travelogue columns into the French Dispatch, a factual weekly report on the subjects of world politics, the arts, high and low, and diverse stories of human interest.
You don't think it's almost too seedy this time?
No, I don't.
For decent people.
It's supposed to be charming.
He assembled a team of the best expatriate journalists of his time: Berenson, Sazerac, Kremens, Roebuck Wright. These were his people.
Just try to make it sound like you wrote it that way on purpose.
At number 8, The French Dispatch, latest film from Wes Anderson and perhaps the most Wes Anderson-y movie he has made yet. Initially, I wasn't very wowed by it, but the more I thought about it afterwards, the more I appreciate it. I think its structure, several magazine articles presented as chapters of the story, fits very well with Anderson's sensibilities, his quirkiness, his absurdist humor, wacky characters and outlandish situations. I also think that it's a film that deserves multiple viewings because it's just so absolutely packed with details. And I think it's impossible to really catch and appreciate them all, just, every aspect of the film, just watching it once. Each frame seems like a meticulously constructed painting, with every detail, every pixel almost of it, carrying meaning or at least enhancing the scene in some way. And on top of that, it has a ridiculously large cast of terrific actors and actresses who are very clearly having a lot of fun with it.
All in.
You count cards, right?
I'm not that smart.
But you win. You need someone to stake you.
That's what you do. You run a stable.
I'm always looking for a good thoroughbred.
Having been sentenced to 10 years in prison, I learned to count cards.
How'd you do that?
Poker's all about waiting.
Check, raise, re-raise, call.
Then something happens.
You remember it? This is where all the good stuff happens.
At number 7, The Card Counter, yet another film on this year's list that is incredibly atmospheric. This one has an air of real foreboding and uneasiness about itself. It is, on the surface, about a gambler making his way through a poker circuit to earn money, but in reality it's a character study of a very, very broken man. Oscar Isaac is captivating as usual. I think it's his best performance since Inside Llewyn Davis. The whole casino poker setting is super interesting, and even more so when you realize that it's just the surface layer and one of the tools that the movie uses in its narrative structure. It's not a particularly pleasant watch, but it is engrossing.
Don't be late.
Minister Malcolm X. Good news, the chariot is coming.
You know I'm the greatest. That's right.
Jim Brown takes the ball.
Your record is gonna stand the test of time.
How's everybody feeling tonight?
All together, yeah.
New heavyweight champion of the world.
Say, champ, you don't suppose you could sign an autograph?
Yeah, of course, man. Give him an autograph, Jim.
Actually, Mr. Cook.
Oh, sure thing, brother.
Don't you think it's about time to party?
Tonight is a chance for us to reflect.
You mean no one else is coming? Well, this is off to a hopping start.
At number 6, One Night in Miami. This is an odd one because it is a movie based on a play, and you can see that very clearly. It is pretty stagey, it is mainly just 4 characters talking in a couple of rooms for about 2 hours, but what a set of characters and what a set of conversations. The play is based on real events and features real people. Actors playing real people, obviously. Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, who later became Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke. Together, they explore their differing views and outlooks on the place of black people in American society, often clashing because of those differences. It's amazingly intelligent, cerebral, very well acted, and it really enriches the whole discussion about racial issues by showing an idea that should be pretty basic if you think about it. The idea that black people are not uniform in their views, that they have varying approaches to their problems and potential solutions. And it has a truly beautiful ending sequence.
18 months for the stolen car, 5 years for impersonating a federal officer, or you can go home.
The Black Panthers are forming a rainbow coalition of oppressed brothers and sisters of every color.
Their aim is to sow hatred and inspire terror.
I will learn all that I can.
These ain't no terrorists.
You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
At number 5, Judas and the Black Messiah. Now, side note, this is possibly the single best trailer I've ever seen for a movie. It's incredibly well cut and does everything a trailer should, sells the idea of what the film is about, makes you very interested in it without spoiling too much, and it does so it has such an energy about it. Do see the whole thing on YouTube, it's worth it. As is the entire film. It's based on a real story and people. It's made with flair and energy. It's carried primarily by the 2 central performances from Daniel Kaluuya and Lucky Stanfield, with especially the former giving a really monumental performance, something I don't see very often. Plus, it does a great job of educating people who, like myself, were unfamiliar with the history of the Black Panther Party in the USA.
When you botched that spell where you wanted everyone to forget the Peter Parker Spider-Man, we started getting some visitors. From every universe.
Hello, Peter.
At number 4, SpiderMan No Way Home. Okay, alright, this is the second Marvel movie on this list, which I think is the first time it happened for me, and it probably makes me look a little bit like a comic book fanboy, which I am to an extent, but I truly believe it deserves to be on this list, which I will remind you is not the best movies of 2021, but my favorite movies of 2021. And this movie I loved with all my heart. It amazed me 10 times more than I thought it would, exceeding my expectations in every single way, and doing the impossible task of finishing the Spider-Man trilogy in a satisfying way, giving closure to the 20-year-old legacy of Spider-Man in film in general, and setting up the stage for whatever new chapter it is to come, which looks as exciting as ever. Does it have tons of fan service? Yes, absolutely, but it's fan service done completely right. It was the first time ever I've seen people at a premiere clapping in a movie theater, and I joined in without hesitation. I laughed, I cried, I was emotional, I was entertained. It is everything I wanted it to be and more, and was one of the all-time best movie-going experiences for me, for sure.
Father rules an entire planet.
He's losing it.
He's getting a richer one.
He'll lose that one too.
Ah, my boy!
Arrakis is a death trap.
Kill him. This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do?
I know you.
At number 3, Dune. This film was by far my most anticipated movie of the year, and it delivered on every front, proving once more that Denis Villeneuve is an absolute master of his craft. It is not only an amazing film in its own right, beautifully shot with a grand scale and truly epic scope, great performances, terrific music, but it is also, or perhaps more importantly, a worthy adaptation of one of my favorite books. It really proves that you can actually stay very faithful to the source material and still be a great movie. Who would have thought, right? Now, is it as perfect as the book? I'd still say no, because things had to get cut, things had to get omitted, because otherwise the film would be 9 hours long. But I really believe that considering the constraints of cinema as a medium, it could not have possibly been better than it is. And it makes me really excited and impatient for the second part, which is coming somewhere in 2023.
Whisper something in your ear.
Good God Almighty. You know, they put themselves in danger, girls like that.
It was a perverted thing to say.
You'd think you'd learn by that age, right?
Please lay down. What are you doing?
It's okay, hey, you're safe.
What are you doing?
Hey, I said, what are you doing?
At number 2, Promising Young Woman. This was actually the film which I've seen all the way back in January, and it occupied my top spot on this list for most of the year. It came, as far as I'm concerned, out of nowhere and blew me away completely. It's so fresh and new, so well conceived and executed. Carey Mulligan is magnetic in the central performance, but everything around her complements that performance. The cinematography, the music, the script and dialogue, obviously, the use of color, the editing, the costumes, all of those cinematic tools are used in perfect concert. And the movie even uses one more of those tools, one which is quite uncommon. It uses casting against the audience. It uses specific people in specific roles to set your expectations and then exploit them in the best ways possible. And I really thought it would end up being my favorite movie of the entire year and nothing else would dethrone it. But then one movie narrowly did.
O greatest of kings, let one of your knights try to land a blow against me. Indulge me in this game.
I will meet thee.
One year hence.
Another year nearly gone already. You must seek him out.
Was it not just a game?
Perhaps, but it is not complete.
You'll find no mercy, no happy end.
Why do you stop me?
Your doom is at hand.
My favorite movie of this year has been The Green Knight, an adaptation of an Arthurian legend of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which on the one hand as an adaptation, stays relatively true to the source material, creating a very eerie, unusual atmosphere of a world not quite real, a world of legends. But at the same time, as much as it goes through the same events as the legend did, it kind of flips the way that the themes of the original tale, chivalry, the virtues of knights, the nature of honor, are explored. So that even if you know that legend very well, like I did, you are still taken on a journey that feels new and fresh and original. Dev Patel is becoming one of my favorite actors of his generation. He really is captivating in everything I've seen him in, and has a certain screen presence, a certain pathos that works really well in here as well. And this film also happens to have my absolute favorite shot of the whole year. I tried to find it on YouTube and put it in this video, but I don't think it's out there legally. But that scene has camera moving slowly backwards as it observes Gawain leaving Camelot on horseback and riding on a narrow path. And on the one side of that path it's a very wide shot. On the one side of this path is Camelot and green fields surrounding it, and on the other a ruined garrison or something, and grey ashen ground. And this one single shot, which is quite a long take, it really lets itself breathe. It perfectly encapsulates the whole central premise of the film. This young knight walking the narrow line between glory and ruin. Really, The Green Knight is everything I love about filmmaking, and I recommend it to everyone out there, because when I was doing some final adjustments to this list before making this video, I still had no doubt in my mind that this was my favorite film of 2021.
Are you ready?